All right, here we go. In three, two, one. Back at it here on the Alaska Sports Talk podcast. So glad to have you along wherever you might get your podcast. Special episode of AST today. Matt Nevala from the Alaska Sports Report joining us, talking a little bit of high school hockey, college hockey, even some hoops as well. Brad Lauwers live on assignment. You're at what, Mountain City tonight?
I'm at Mountain City, but my car's in a snowbank. Not far in the snowbank, but if you can't get out, it doesn't matter how far you're in.
So are you literally stuck? Like,
I'm stuck, so
okay.
There's a
I don't like to
gym full
say
of
it,
kids.
but
The gym full of kids are going to help you in that, right?
yeah, my sons live in this area, but they're not answering their phone.
Oh, that's about right. That's about right.
Actually, Peyton went to the Diamond game, so he's not even going to talk to me till that one's over. And it sounds like Diamond is ahead by maybe 7 as they go into the half over there.
Well, what's the update currently between Grace and Mountain City? I know that you were keeping an eye on that.
Yeah, it was after running away from my car. I came in, it was 16-11. And one thing I know about Mountain City is it's all out. I mean, they play hard all the time, but when it's Grace, you know, if you win the Grace game, that can make your season. So they were ahead 16-11, and then at the start of the second quarter, Grace went on an 18-point run.
Jeez.
So it's 38-22 right now as the buzzer sounds in the first half. The girls' game, I saw a lot of the girls' game, and Mountain City, they're fresh off their tournament win at the Lady Lynx a week ago, and they played a lot of games that weren't close. I think where Mountain City's had good success in the past, Lonnie Ridgway's got them playing defense like crazy, just knowing their rotations, and it's just amazing what he's got them to do. And today they were drilling threes. They scored at the buzzer to get their 50th point, and shortly into the second half. And Grace, you think Grace won the 3A last year. It's not like, but they did bounce into 4A, and it was a mercy rule game, before you knew it. So that's kind of that high school roundup that we have. I think East is over at Bartlett right now, and West Service play tomorrow, and that's going to tell us a lot about what the standings are in the CIC.
Yeah, that
Certainly
should
with
be.
those,
Go ahead,
certainly with
Matt.
all those, certainly with all those cancellations and the recent weather, the pace of the CIC teams are playing almost every night. So I
That's a
think it's
good
going to be
point.
little bit of a mad dash to the last couple of weeks of their regular season here.
Yeah, practices will be at a premium. Games will it's gonna be a lot of 3 game weeks and not that far away. Keaton always reminds us I can't believe we're this far into the season.
Yeah, I
It's
can't either.
football,
February 10th?
yeah. And then just before I get a shovel and call my sons again, I'll have to download this week, just like everybody else, to hear the hockey update. Matt, we're so good. I think I told you, Matt, that your only credentials are that you do UAA hockey. You were on a talk show with Kurt Heider. You used to write for the Daily News. It
Wow.
used to come out every day. It was a daily. Now it's a 2 day a week. And I think at the time you'd battled the Anchorage Times. So it kind of goes on and on. You taught Jack Michaels how to announce. I mean,
Yeah,
so
kind of. So I sat next
And
to him while he started off on his NHL career. That's for sure.
whatever happened to Jack Michaels?
yeah, I don't know. I don't know where that guy's at.
I'm driving to Edmonton sometime.
Oh, there
That
you
might be
go.
the Alaska Aces' greatest legacy is they have their three young broadcasters all advanced to the NHL. Jack, Josh, and Mike Benton, all pretty
Yep.
crazy stat when you really think about it. So,
It is crazy. It is
That
crazy.
is cool.
but yeah,
No,
been at this for 30 years, BKL. I mean, it's insane to think that the Sullivan Arena is going to host a Division One state tournament here for hockey for the first time since '97, and I started in '96. I mean, it's insane that I was able to do that for that long at the ADN. Now with the Alaska Sports Report, we're super proud of the product we're putting out, and hopefully filling some of those holes of what we're missing from other media entities, and using our agency and vast knowledge of all these years and experience to make a product we're really proud of. So,
Matt, I think not a podcast goes by when we don't refer to something. And oftentimes Isaiah will point out, if you want to see a great article, if you want to find out more about this, you'll find it with you guys at Alaska Sports Report. So
well, thank you, my friend.
congratulations on the great
Yeah.
job that you guys do, and really your staff and yourself and Van. I mean, you really got a team of people that know Alaska
Well,
sports.
speaking of basketball, I'll just give Van a plug. Is that the roundup, round ball roundups he's doing every single morning? Kind of what the old-fashioned sports section used
Yep.
to be was, and if he can get a box score, he's going to give a couple paragraphs and give some nuance and let you know what it means when so and so beats so and so. And so again, we're providing the community that service that they pretty much can't find anywhere else. So we're going to always kind of pump up our chest on that for sure.
Yeah, well, Daily News, one of our friends of the program was here tonight. We were talking to him a while back and talking about the rewind, but as good as it is, that used to be kind of what happened every day. You wouldn't
Yeah,
you wouldn't have to wait till the one day to catch up. But I
and
mean,
it's not Josh Reed's deal. It's as I've often said over the years. I've said it to you guys a few times I visit with you. I think this is what the public asks for. It's getting what it paid for, and so you have to search out for quality, and they know where to go to find it.
Yep.
well, just before I grab my shovel, I wanted to talk to UA basketball. And Keaton watches even more than I do, and but just the men's game. I made sure um, that I didn't miss those. Northwest Nazarene on Thursday. But no, it flipped out. Did I get it backwards? Central
Central
on
Washington on Thursday, Northwest
Thursday.
Nazarene Saturday. Yeah.
Northwest Nazarene, who that was the team that beat UA on the road.
Right.
And just, I thought the last couple of years, the the conference has been so tight. The games have been and UA's had a lot bounce away. But this year's team is tough. They're tough minded. You get a 4 point lead, 11 point lead at half. Invariably, the other team comes back, and you just have to react. And that's just a tough minded crew. Um, Keaton, realistically, I was lucky to get away with my right hand because I saw Mount Tosi, and I shook his hand. My hand just disappeared. But to see the crowd start to build, and you've seen it, Keaton. Especially since conference play began, they've just answered the bell every time.
Yeah, the men's basketball team, they've been playing really well. They're second right now in the GNAC conference. They've won 3 games in a row. You mentioned those games against Central Washington, Northwest Nazarene, but then they also had that road victory against Simon Fraser thrown in there as well. They've won 4 of their last 5 games. So they're on a tear. They're a game back of St. Martin's, who they play in the last regular season game of the year. So it could come down to that on the last day of the season. I think it's like February 28th when they play St. Martin's. So it could be kind of interesting to see how things shake out. But I think you're right, Brad. This is a different team than the last couple of years in terms of winning close games, right? Things are bouncing their way a little bit, finally getting the good bounces. And they've been impressive. The impressive part, perhaps to me, is kind of the production they're getting from the local guys. Maybe I shouldn't be surprised, but Hassan Harrington, Bishop Tosi, I mean, these guys who we saw just a few years ago, they're lighting it up.
Both named GNAC players of the week just within the last few months or few weeks here.
Yeah.
Also worth noting, the whole basketball team was supporting the UA hockey team Friday night at Sullivan Arena. I did pass most of them in the concourse, so throw that on top of the accolades for Rusty Osborne's squad.
Bishop Tosi line on Thursday night, 10 out of 13 from the field. He hit 2 threes along the way, 30 points, which I believe is a career high.
Yeah.
So that was amazing. So actually, when I did see Mao on Saturday, I said, boy, he's having a crummy game. But after you have a career high like that, but I guess the last thing before I jump out, I always say it's the last thing, but Valentine's Day, there's going to be a showdown. Probably not a massacre, but UAF swept UAA in a very rare occurrence last year, and they got game one, which is an emotional game up in Fairbanks. So looking forward to it on Valentine's Day, and we'll either go out. Kim and I will go out early. We'll go out late, but Saturday's set
I'm
aside.
sure you will.
Okay, so
all right.
let me know about hockey.
All right, we will. All right,
All right,
go dig yourself out of the snowbank there.
Good
thanks.
luck.
All right.
All right, bye.
I can't believe he got stuck in a snowbank.
Oh, I
I mean,
can.
oh my gosh.
I'm guessing it's gonna be one of those deals where the high school parking lot at MC or Mountain Christian or Mountain City wasn't very well plowed as the Sullivan Arenas parking lot was. I've never seen quite an adventure that you saw in that parking lot because I left Saturday's UA game in enough time to walk over next door to Ben Boki to catch the end of the South Diamond. And I saw cars parked in spots that I'd never seen them before, up on sides of curbs and just everything. And people were parking across the street and getting away with it, which used to never happen. But anyway, I digress. It's your
Well,
show. What's
no,
going
I
on?
was going to say I heard a rumor because I wasn't there. I was at UAA. Well, actually, that was Friday night. I was at Division Two hockey out in the Valley, doing the semifinal game. But that there was no parking attendance. Like, I mean, you have two
Well, I
events going
think.
on, and there was zero people doing any
I
parking.
think part of this was whatever arrangement was made for UA to host these two games. For historic history wise, UA hosted games at Sullivan Arena for the first time in nearly 7 years,
Right,
since March of 2019. Games against Fairbanks on Friday and Saturday. They lost 4-1 on Friday, won in overtime thanks to Anchorage's Weston scoring that overtime goal 55 seconds into overtime. First games at Sullivan, the community did respond. I mean, there was some, you take it now announce crowds, with a grain of salt.
hmm
It's just whatever number they say. I would say this crowds were similar both nights, healthy in the 3,000s. It felt like a quote unquote real game. That's what a game at Sullivan Arena was like. People were around. But on Saturday, with the Cookland Conference game going on, the outdoor rinks still have games with kids playing all day. It was just something beyond a mess, and probably because there was no paying component, there were no other attendants. They were there early, but not late, from what I understand. But I
gotcha.
digress.
Yeah. Well, they got more games coming up the Sullivan, right? I mean,
Yeah,
against
February
UAF.
20th and 21st, games 5 and 6 of the 8 game series. Fairbanks is basically a win and a half away. They went for the first time ever in this 31 years of the series to a points per game system. So a regulation win is worth three, an OT win is worth two, an OT loss is worth one. Hence why the score is 8-4 right now. Two regulation wins and two OT losses essentially for UAF, and then UA has a two OT wins for the one was a tie and a shootout. But anyway, UA saw a puncher's chance in that, and actually really intriguing. They get to head down to Missouri to play Lindenwood, one of the other five college independents, the one that will be hosting their inaugural. They're calling it the United Collegiate Hockey
Right.
Cup. For the five teams, UA, UAF, Stonehill, Lindenwood, and why am I blanking on somebody? Yeah, and Long Island. And again, as Matt Shasby said earlier in the year, and I'm sure Eric Largen would say too, it gives them something to go shoot for at the end of the year as opposed to
Yeah.
just being done after the 35 games. So it'll be intriguing to see what happens there.
So Seawolf hockey's been back. Is this year three, four? Since it's
Four.
been
This is
year
this is
four.
four since that's their two dormant years. Yeah.
Yeah. So kind of give us a feeling of, the state of the hockey program. I'm not worried about the win-loss record. That is what
Well,
it is.
you're one of the
But
smarter ones then, because I mean, I think there's still a segment of our hockey loving community, or just our sports loving community, that still is kind of hung up on the success that the program had or didn't have in the early 90s or in whatever
right.
year or when it first entered the WCHA. The college hockey, college sports landscape has changed so dramatically. Players coming and going, coming in at semester, do all the different things, no money. Right now, in the NCAA Division One landscape, being an independent is rough. You are going to basically spend 70 to 80% or 85% of your time on the road, kind of being the schedule filler for the big major conference schools, almost like what you see on those random weeks of college football when William and Mary's are going to Alabama. That's unfortunately kind of the position I see UA and UAF in. Obviously, that can change. A couple more teams decide to get Division One college hockey teams. Maybe there's a conference coming up. Then it becomes the question, is the sport outgrowing the old-fashioned, we'd like to have Alaska involved in this as well. I'm not trying to be gloom and doom. It's just one of those things like it's grown so big
Yeah,
and the money's so big. There's talk like NCAA Division One hockey is kind of becoming the third or fourth best league in the world. NHL down because of the what's allowed to have happen. 20-year-old kids that have already played quasi-professional or major junior are now going to come right to Division One. So we'll see. But yeah, wins have been tough to come by. Relatively speaking, competitive team. They're hurting to have real production offensively. Their goaltending with Tyler Kristoff has been great, but they just don't have that one or two kids that they know that we're going to put them out on a shift and something's going to happen. They
right.
really have to scrap to make something happen, and they did on Saturday night. And everyone in that arena went home really happy because of it.
Yeah, that overtime win. I mean, that was huge. Picked that up 3-2. Weston had that game winning goal,
Yep,
right?
Aiden did. Yep,
Yeah,
in overtime, they got a penalty near the end of the third period. Went to overtime with whatever it was, a minute and change on the power play. Really worked the power play well. Aiden got the puck in the low left circle, kind of turned, didn't have anyone on him, so he kind of waited, hesitated, and just run right up on Leslie Latte, the UAF goaltender, and buried one high right, and it was the Southern Arena was alive for
that's
those couple of
awesome.
minutes, and I'm sure there were plenty of people that were a little emotional about it, as was Matt Shasby when I was able to talk to him just one on one, the two of us alone after the game down in the bowels of Southern Arena, and you could tell it meant something to him. So I was really happy to see it for him.
Oh, that is cool because I mean he's gone through a lot. I mean getting the program up and running and just the grind day in and day out during the regular season, but then the off season. You mentioned the scheduling standpoint from an independent. He probably has more work as a Division One hockey coach being an independent than your guys at North Dakota, Wisconsin, any of the Big Ten schools or anything of that nature on a day-to-day basis, just trying to get games.
And I don't have it on first authority, but I have a reason to believe, like where Matt has his four-person staff, which is all local, Evan Trupp, Aaron McPeters, Chris Kamal. Chris Kamal played here and now lives here. These other staffs, right? These other teams around the country, North Dakotas, Wisconsin's, Michigans, have an entirely different staff
Right.
involved in the scheduling, involved in the scouting, as opposed to what, both UA and UAF are doing. Just doing what they can do to make the best of the situation. That's what I said UA did these last couple of years playing the Avis Alaska Sports Complex. If they're able to make everything work, cross the T's, dot the I's, and play their games now going forward, they're having the two more, and then they'll go to next season. I'm sure there'll be some more at the Sullivan. Maybe all of them will be at the Sullivan, and that'll probably bode well for the long term. They can't raise a nickel playing at the Avis Alaska Sports Complex. Maybe they
Yeah.
can make a couple of bucks by playing at the Sullivan Arena.
Well, I was just going to ask you before we kind of wrap up college hockey, what's kind of maybe the next step to help UAA grow the hockey program a little bit? I mean,
Well,
is it facilities? Is it,
there.
what's going to help? I mean, what's
Again, I think the last time you guys had me on, we were kind of
yeah,
covering this again.
right,
There is reason to believe there are some foundational pieces in place that would either take the home and rink in the Avis Alaska Sports Complex and kind of knock some
add
of it
on to
down,
it,
build
right.
around, or use some of that land over there on the campus, which again, if you go by mission statements and all that stuff, is what UA is here to do, is to use that land to maybe build a separate 3,000 seating facility. Can it happen tomorrow? No. And that's kind of the rub here is we're in a position where they need to make the best of the situation now and 5 years from now, 10 years from
Right.
now. A lot of factors go into that. There's a legislature and a state legislator and state government needs to be behind it, and a university that needs to be behind it. And, you kind of wonder if that's going to be in the offing going to the future, kind of we were talking off the air about here at Anchorage School Districts facing all these budget things, and the chicken hawk stuff might be out the window, and some real cuts may be coming, and that's going to affect the entire community if and when it happens.
Yeah, so you brought it up. Let's transition to high school sports. Last week, Division II hockey state championships out in the Valley. The North Pole Patriots winning their first ever state hockey championship as they defeated the Houston Hawks 3-1. I know you were at the state championship game. Your thoughts on Division II hockey this year and the
Well,
North Pole Patriots?
big shout out to Kieran Olson, recently just christened a couple hours ago the Alaska Sports Sport Athlete of the Week, making 34 saves in that championship game. I have my druthers with the state of Alaska high school hockey in terms of there's only 22 programs, and the reason why we have the two divisions. Take that all away and just congratulate this team for what they did and what they accomplished. I was great to wake up Sunday morning before the Super Bowl, or maybe it was early yesterday, whatever it was, and see social media announcements about where the parade and all this stuff was going to happen. And we don't get a lot of that here in the big city. There's no parades
No.
when so and so wins a state championship. So to know that it means something to a community. That's all an old-fashioned sports reporter wants to know, is that there's still people with passion involved in these programs. So, big congratulations to Patriots. Job well done. And obviously, to have the tournament kind of go from Soldotna to Palmer was interesting. That Palmer MTA Event Center is a nice place, and now we're going from the Menard Center for Division I back to the Sullivan, and we're gonna see how it goes.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Just to kind of recap, North Pole, you mentioned Kieran Olson. He only gave up one goal, and that was to
hmm
Houston in that championship game. They won 11-0 against Kodiak, won 2-0 against Soldotna in the semifinals, and then that 3-1 victory in the championship game.
I think it was
Uh,
72 combined saves in the
yep,
three games or something along those
it's
lines. So
insane. Yeah. So heck of a run there in the state tournament. Palmer finished in third place, by the way. They had a 3-1 victory over the Soldotna Stars to pick up third place in this year's Division II state tournament. So you mentioned the big boys. Division I coming up this week, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday at the Sullivan Arena. First time since 96,
seven,
97.
97
All
since
right.
February 97.
That's crazy to think
Crazy.
about. Yeah,
Crazy. I
it
mean,
is crazy.
the year before is when I first set foot in the state, and a young man named Scott Gomez was playing his final year at South that year. And I remember going to a game early on in my daily news tenure when they sent me down. And it took me about 5 seconds to see him skate. Go, what is he doing? Because I know I can't do that. And to have him grow, and now that he's retired and coaching down the USHL, we've become pretty good friends. But I'll never forget the first time I saw him play. Then the following year was 97. Man, there was a lot going on. The ASAA had state high school hockey on probation for a year because there were some penalties and kind of major penalties and just some real ugliness that kind of put the sport on the precipice of real trouble just because of behavior issues. And they dug themselves out of that hole, but now they're kind of in a different hole with these budget cuts. But be that as it may, we got 3 days to celebrate the 43rd District One or Division One state championship. So we're going to do that with the first time ever, 6 teams from the same league. Because again, 11 total, so 6 from the Cook Inlet Conference, Anchorage School Districts Conference, making the way because of the upsets in the conference tournament, basically.
Right.
Because Eagle River beat Chugiak that night. That they took that at large spot away and basically gave it to the Mustangs after the fact, based on its regular season's performance. So pretty intrigued. A lot of pressure on Wasilla
Yeah.
and West Valley to maybe prove something in that field, but it's kind of an Anchorage invitational.
It almost is. I mean, you have South and Service in the opening round, West Diamond, West Valley and Chugiak and Wasilla and Eagle River. You look at the bracket. I anybody who's watched any high school hockey this year, I think would look at this bracket and go, "What in the world? How did
Why
this
it's
get aligned the way that it did?" And
the
I
only
don't.
thing, our friend Kathleen Navarre is now in charge of her and Brian Hoskin over at ASAA, and they just did the standard thing. It's 1-8-4-5
Sure.
2-7-3-3-6. So and rightly or wrongly, they come right out and say, here's this math formula. You get points based on this: your own winning percentage, your opponent's winning percentage, and your opponent's winning percentage. And it all gets thrown in the pot. And these are the numbers, and these are the 8 teams they had left, and they were in this order. And they just put them in there.
And I get
And
it. Yeah.
and it seems wildly top heavy. in and of itself, but we all
Yeah.
knew what we were getting into, and it kind of could. That same discussion happens every year. How do they know?
Well,
How do they do this? How do they do that? And they could kind of make. They could have mixed up some things for for entertainment purposes, if you will, but it just kind of played out. This is exactly what it was, and Eagle River, the 7 seed. And the one thing I like to do after all these years too is recognize the seeds only prior to Thursday's games. Once the games
yeah.
start, they're just 8 teams in a bracket,
No,
and
you're
here we
right.
go. That's just my personal preference
Like,
because by the time you get to Friday and Saturday and these things,
doesn't
it
matter.
doesn't matter. You just
Yeah.
win in advance. And so, there's an interesting pressure on the South Anchorage Wolverines, unbeaten, first unbeaten team since 2023 with Chugach coming into this tournament. That year, the Mustangs rolled to 3 wins to finish with 23, I believe, overall. South coming in this one 19-0-2. But they haven't been the kind of team they haven't mercied everyone, for lack of a better phrase, and played some close games, played some ties, a tie against West and a tie against Diamond, which is why that Friday 7:30 p.m. semifinal is going to be a knockdown drag out, regardless of who wins. Because, of course, that West and Diamond game on Thursday night, the final of the four quarterfinals, is going to be very intriguing as well, because they had a rather contentious CIC tournament semifinal out at
Yeah.
the McDonald Center on Thursday night. Some people were pretty upset from what I was told, and there were some words exchanged going back and forth. So yeah, that game at 7:30 on Thursday. If you're interested and haven't watched a lot of high school hockey, you probably want to go check it out because it could be a little bit of an extra show.
I think you're going to want to see it. I think in general, if you're a hockey fan in general this week, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, just from the perspective of the venue, and especially if you're a student, now you don't have to drive to the valley. And if you're a student that attends to an ASD school, I think go. Like it's going to be an awesome, awesome event this week. I'm surprised there hasn't been more hype around it, really.
Well, I mean, and part of that's like you get put in my position, and you put so many hours in last
Right.
week, and I had to give myself a couple days to decompress. But at the same time, if you know, you know, sort of deal.
Sure.
The Wolverines, the Anchorage Wolverines, to their credit, kind of rechristened the Sullivan Arena, made it, I don't know if place to be is the right word, but certainly reminded people of what it once was. There's still areas around it that are little, you can tell the place might have been shut down for a couple of years in certain spots, but the audiovisual, the technology, the Wolverines have spent in the cube and the things and get people on camera and getting kids having a good time. They have a lot of fun at that. UA got a taste of it. Now it's high school hockey's turn, and the other intriguing thing is these kids are getting out on the Olympic size ice. That's a lot of extra room, and you saw it in the UAA UAF game, even though there is some side ice up at the Carlson Center in Fairbanks as well. But the Anchorage, it'll be intriguing. But yeah, you're right. People, as a lark, it's definitely worth kind of checking that out. So at the very least, maybe plan on going to the title game on Saturday, 5 o'clock.
Yeah, it should be a fun and entertaining weekend of high school hockey. And, you kind of touched on it a little bit, Matt, in terms of what the future of high school sports is. I just kind of want to know your gut feeling here. Maybe in
As I was,
general, but also just maybe hockey, because I think hockey's always been the one that's been the biggest like stickler
well,
over the
there's
last few years.
and there is different factions that believe that we should be doing X, Y, or Z. It's always been the comp versus high school, and why do we have to have it this way? Well, if you were to move the high school season from what is it, November, October to February,
Yeah.
from that to January to May or whatever it is, well, that would also affect X amount of other activities that the ASAA or the state of Alaska provides high school athletes. So it's not as simple, at least on the surface, as just say, oh yeah, we're going to just change it, adjust it by a month or two, because that involves a bunch of other championships, and I'm sure the ASAA is interested in having to run up against its beloved March Madness Alaska basketball tournament, even though I would argue which one might be better than the other, but that's just me as a hockey guy. As I've been accused so many times over all these years of being only a hockey guy, which I'm not. Um, but there's real questions to families and children, kids, athletes, high school kids, young people, viewing the importance of getting outside and playing in these weekend random tournaments in whatever, name your favorite city and playing 3 games there because you can get seen. I counter with that is, can't you be seen the same way you're seeing the two of us
Exactly.
right now? I mean,
Yeah.
there's videos, there's this, there's that, and you know, are we generating the kind of numbers from a hockey standpoint of talent that makes sense for these families and kids and teams to be traveling in the middle of the school year and missing classes? I don't know if we are. I mean, essentially, yeah, Jeremy Soyman was kind of the last big ticket item, and we'll see him maybe playing in net for Team USA. It'll be
Yeah.
interesting to see if he gets the nod for 2 years as South High Wolverine. I do, as I'm partial to the high school stuff only because the anecdote I always say, when you're 54 years old and you're has been now, and you're playing in beer league games occasionally and barely moving when you do, you remember what you did in a high school game
Right.
35 years ago.
No.
And I think when and if school officials and the powers that be have to make these decisions, these kids and families really aren't going to know what they're going to be missing out on, and it's almost taken for granted kind of thing. And so, I know there were a lot of different athletes from a lot of different sports testifying at the school board meeting last night. It'll probably continue. I get the sense, it's again the Chicken Little type of deal where they cry wolf and all that good stuff and all the lame cliche. Uh, is someone really gonna make that decision? I mean,
Yeah.
that whether it's hockey, whether it's volleyball, whether it's swimming and diving, gymnastics, riflery, all these unique things that have made the Alaska high school sports scene so wild, so amazing and fun to be able to have a small role telling stories for 30 years. If some of it goes away, it'll be a life change for a lot of people, that's for
It will.
sure.
It will
Yeah.
be. It will be. So it'll be interesting to keep an eye on. We'll be talking about it, throughout the rest of this spring and on into summer to kind of see what happens. But kind of getting low on time here in this edition of the Alaska Sports Talk podcast. Matt, I want to get what is something that people should look out for this weekend at high school state hockey? Player to
Well,
watch, team to watch,
Well, like I
storyline.
said, I think that West Diamond quarterfinal is kind of a grudge match. There's that. And also look at Eagle River and the way John DeCaro, the former Aces and UA goalie, kind of brought that team. They won 2 games they won 3 games in a week, and they had only won five in the previous 2.5 months, whatever it has been. So that's an intriguing spot in the 7 hole, if you will, against the Rail Belt Conference Wasilla, who again, I'm sure the Wasillas and West Valleys are sick of are not exactly thrilled with the idea that they're the only non ASD CIC representation. So is that, from a player standpoint, that's a funny thing. South is unbeaten, but they don't have that. Hey, that's the guy. Hey, that's the guy. They have a group of guys. They can run a couple lines out there. Almost every team in this field has that same dude. They have 2 or 3 guys that can be playmakers. Some real strong goaltending I like in that. Uh, you know, um, Jagger Hulscoter was part of the Cookland Conference team for South. Jordan Olmstead only a sophomore for Chugiak. Goaltending was actually pretty good, as we mentioned. Kieran Olson from North Pole being this week's Alaska Sports Report
Right.
Athlete of the Week. Prior to that, the Bartlett goalie, homeschool student, maybe he chose to play for Bartlett knowing he was going to get a lot of minutes. Made
Sanders.
70
Yeah.
saves in a game, and I know you and Isaiah talked about that last weekend. But I was there, and you got caught about early in the second period. I just went, huh, something really interesting is happening here, because he was scooping up everything, and I was kind of monitoring what those numbers were. But
That is wild.
there's that. Say there is some pressure, I think, on South to complete this. What they like to call the Triple Crown, winning the CIC regular season, winning the CIC tournament, and bring kind of 65 years of that league. I mean, to be perfectly honest, if this were to be the final one that a Cookland Conference team and Anchorage School District teams are involved in, the idea that 65 years of history would just kind of go poof.
Away. Yeah.
I really, that does bother, again, aging sports writer dork guy, to think that there isn't more heft behind more people upset that could go away. But until it does, I
Right.
just stress the importance of getting out and enjoying those 3 days. I know like I said, the facility the Sullivan Arena is a new place, is relatively speaking. It's been cleaned up, new chairs, new this, new that. And if you haven't been there for a while and you want to check it out, you should do that. The UA is on the road at Lindenwood, as we mentioned. UAF is off until they come back down to Anchorage and Sullivan Arena a week from Friday. And the Anchorage Wolverines a little scuffling right now. They've lost two in a row up at Fairbanks. They're out of a playoff spot, but they still have about 20-ish games remaining to kind of make or break it, trying to get in the postseason for the fourth time in their 5 seasons of existence.
Well, a lot of hockey action, that's for sure.
Yeah,
So there's
and
also
it's super fun. It's again, the sportsman luncheon on Wednesday at the Round Table Pizza or whatever. The old Kurt Hyder and I, we're
yeah,
only hockey guys. We're not.
no,
We never have been.
no,
When we were the sports guys, we weren't only hockey guys. We want to support all this. I want to see a situation where none of those sports go away,
yep.
whether regardless of what it is. I mean, I want the opportunities there for all these young people to thrive and get to know what they're going to be. So when they're old guys like us, they can think back to the
Have those
positive
memories.
and all the fun they had. So yeah,
That's it. That's it. So another state championship. Who knows? Could be the last one. Hopefully it's not, but we'll see.
that's crazy. It's crazy to think so, but yeah,
Yeah,
it could be. It
could
definitely
be.
could be. Yep.
Could be.
Yep.
Don't forget, before we sign it off here, UAA men's and women's basketball in action this weekend. Women start things off on Thursday night as they will take on Western Washington. And then also you have high school hockey Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Saturday is that huge day for UAA basketball as well. The bounce back charity game. You can get in free with a donation of a soft clothing item if you bring that to the Alaska Airlines Center. It's also a hoop camp game of recognition and inclusion for the UAA men's basketball team as they take on UAF. The UAA women will play at 5:15 as they will take on Simon Fraser. So a lot of stuff happening.
Make sure you visit the Alaska Sports Report for write-ups on all that stuff, as well as the high school hockey. I'll be there all 3 days and bring you as much knowledge as 30 years of being in this community has given me.
I'm
I don't know if
looking
that's a
forward to the
l-
little tidbits. There's going to be
I don't
some
know if
little
that's a
trinkets.
lot. I kept some of it here. I didn't
Yep.
give it to you right
Good.
off the bat. I want to
Good.
keep some of my research here to my close to my vest here at the
As you
moment.
should.
But it should be another fun week and a celebration. That's what last weekend was with the Governor's Cup being in that building. That's what the First National Cup needs to be this weekend as well.
It's going to be a fun weekend of high school sports. Matt, we'll see you at the arena. Thanks a lot for joining us here on the Alaska Sports
Thanks,
Report.
Keaton. Have a great night, buddy.
All right.